Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fire Talk with Chief Mark McCluskey. I'm your host, Public Safety Information Director Larry Flowers. Chief, appreciate you joining us.
Yes, glad to be back.
Sure. We're going to talk about the calls for service for the month of November. Looks like an increase from last month.
Yeah, runs went up just a few. It seemed like made more runs, but not as many significant kind of calls, but more runs for sure.
Sure. 1,217 EMS incidents. So you're running a lot of medical calls here.
Lot of EMS, and that comes from medical calls all the way up to car wrecks and whatever kind of calls it may be for medical side, which we cover all the city limits of Murfreesboro that we respond on all those calls.
That's inner city roads, the interstate.
Anything, whatever it may be where EMS is needed, medical service.
Okay. 730 fire incidents. That's the rest of the calls that are non-medical, right?
That's correct. That's till actual fires all the way down to someone just maybe had a false alarm in their house. That's covering all other calls that we have also. And you can see out of those 730 calls, we had actual 15 fires in those calls.
Sure.
That are working fires.
We go back to November 9th. There was a fire on Cannon Avenue that a commercial fire.
It was a commercial building. Our crews, when they first arrived on the scene, they saw they had a working fire. The crews we have, they're pretty aggressive. Went in, got the fire out, kept it to pretty much a room and contents, and pretty much saved the building.
Right, and the great news is no injuries.
No injuries, correct.
And that cause of that fire is still undetermined.
That is correct. The fire marshal's office is investigating, and I'm not sure if they have an outcome on what started it yet or not.
Sure, and a big shout out to the crews that responded.
Oh yeah, I had several crews respond on commercial calls. You know, we had engines and ladders, and of course our battalion chiefs and safety officers always respond with a call like that.
Okay. We're going to move on to fire at an apartment complex.
Over off Robert Rose, fairly new building. I think it's maybe on the 4th floor. Got a call, on it, and it was on the, like I said, on the 4th floor. When the crews went up to the 4th floor, they found a unattended cooking, which had already caught some other stuff on fire. And the sprinkler system kept it in check, and was able to extinguish it the rest of the way, and no injuries there, just some damage to the apartment.
Yeah, fire marshal's office investigating cause of that.
That is correct, yeah.
Even though they believe it may be caused from cooking.
Cooking, yes, and you always want to make sure, when you first arrive on the scene, your first intentions, the stove's on fire, it must have been cooking. But you always want to make sure, could have been something wrong with the appliance that set it on fire, or kids playing with it or something like that. You just want to make sure that that's actually what happened.
And sure, we just finished Thanksgiving. Christmas is coming up, a good time to remind, our viewers and our listeners about cooking safety.
Cooking safety, yes. Don't turn anything on, walk off and leave it. Always attend your cooking. And I know a big thing now is deep frying turkeys. We have information on our website on correctly how to do that. I don't know of any incidents we had this year with deep frying turkeys, but I do remember some in the past having some pretty significant fires from them.
Of course, saw on social media, somebody, don't know if they were joking or not, had a fryer inside their house, cardboard on the floor, saying that they're frying their first turkey. That's not the way to do it,
That is not a good idea at all. It's always got to be outside, away from the house, because that grease is going to splatter. Not only if you didn't have a fire, the mess that it would make inside the house would be awful.
Right. So we're going to move on. There was another fire at the Colony House apartment back on November 23rd.
Yes. Of course, those apartments over off of Tennessee Boulevard, those buildings been there a pretty good while. But same thing, upstairs fire in the apartment. Firefighters very aggressive, went in, contained it to the room, put it out. Had several units to respond. Of course, several ladders and engines, and of course the safety officers and our battalion chief. And the reason we send so many on apartments is the risk that's involved there, because it is a residential area where a lot of people are sleeping in a small condensed area. So we always want to make sure we got enough manpower, not only to fight the fire, but to do evacuations also.
And that's when you hear multi-dwelling fire, meaning
yes,
there are
multi-dwelling,
multiple people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anywhere where you have a high occupancy level.
Yeah. And in that particular fire, there's a woman and her animals that were able to get out prior to arrival, but your guys still have to go in and check to make sure the apartment is not occupied.
Yes, exactly. That's always the first thing when we arrive on the scene. You size it up. You're looking at your hazards. Even if someone tells you, I don't believe anybody's in there, they're not at home or whatever, you still have to always make sure there is nobody in there. So life safety is our first thing.
On November 21st, responded to a vehicle that had struck the Ascend Federal Credit Union building on Memorial.
Yeah.
A lot of damage to that building.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how it happened. Usually, sometimes somebody forgets to put it in park or something like that, or just lose control of their car, but it did do some damage to the building. No one was hurt. We come out and checked it. And usually in cases like that, we'll call codes department. They'll send out someone, an engineer to look at the building and say, hey, it's safe, or we need to call someone in to support the building or make them get out or whatever, just to make sure it's safe to be occupied after that happens. In
some cases, I've seen your guys on the scene, they will shore up the building with
that is correct.
2x4s.
That is correct. We have a urban search and rescue trench team. They deal with shoring also. We got the equipment that we can come in and shore up a building, special equipment we use for that to make sure that it will stay in place until construction can be done to fix it properly. We've had to use that several times in the past.
Right. And Chief, back on November 7th, responded to a multi-vehicle accident, Northwest Broad Street at Church. A lot of vehicles involved. I mean, I lost count with the number that were involved.
I think the total count of vehicles was 9 vehicles. I think it was a rear-end collision. Somebody obviously did not apply brakes, hit somebody, it caused a domino effect. Several cars, got a lot of 911 calls in it because it looked a lot worse than what it was. We send extra equipment to the calls because of the amount of cars they were saying involved. Of course, we got on the scene, started triaging each car to see who was had injured or whatnot, but we had no really significant injuries in that wreck, but kind of lucky on that because it was a pretty good wreck. The first couple of cars was messed up pretty bad.
And one of the things that your guys had to do on that scene, which they trained for all the time, is they had to stabilize some of those vehicles because I think 1 or 2 had overturned.
Yes.
So stabilizing those vehicles, making sure it was safe.
That is a thing, in stabilizing the vehicle. I know people have all seen it or have heard of it done. Like if you got an overturned vehicle and there's somebody in it, do not overturn it to try to get them out. We come in and stabilize the vehicle, then remove the patient from it then, because you could do more damage to the patient by trying to turn the car over. And we also stabilize them for our safety too. We cannot be inside the car working on a patient or outside and the vehicle start moving or maybe falling off of another car when they're up under each other or something like that. So yeah, safety is always a big factor in extrication as far as the stabilizing and stuff.
Okay. Going to move on to, I guess, a shout out for our crew that went to East Tennessee during Hurricane Helene. ServPro Business Development Representative Gary Farley, which, as you know, was in the fire service as well.
He was in the fire service and works with ServPro now. Their company come in and recognized all the ones from, I think they did it for the county too, the ones that deployed up during the hurricane. And recognized, had those guys, I think, give them some lunch and give them a little award and talk to them and thank them.
Some of those that were recognized: Jeremy Spivey, John Fisher, Wesley Slager, Paul Wesh, and Chad Wisniewski.
Chad Wisniewski.
There you go.
Yeah, it took me a while to remember that one too. That's the 5 guys we sent up. I've been deployed to several different things, and some of these guys had too, and every one of them's a different kind of situation you get deployed to, but hearing what they saw and went through and what they done, this is probably one of the most, I don't know a good word to describe it, but it was not a good scene at all, what they'd done.
A lot of devastation.
Yes, a lot of devastation. Several people passed in this, and I like to personally thank these guys for going and doing what they've done and representing our department. We got a lot of good positive feedback from the good work that people from this county did up there, so good to hear that.
Sure, and the mayor recognized them as well.
Yes.
And so that's a good thing. He's going to recognize them.
That is correct.
For their hard work, and we really appreciate those guys volunteering to go. Right?
Yes. Of course, in a disaster like that, you get called up. Then we got several members of our team that do these things, and we put out a page, and they go on volunteering basis based on their training.
Right.
So, but we sent 5, but I bet we had 50 that wanted to go. So,
right.
So everybody's willing to step up to help out. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, because we had a team on standby as well.
That is correct.
That were not needed, but they were ready to go.
Yes.
Yeah. So our next thing up is performing under pressure. We had firefighters from more than 80 departments, or 80 firefighters from 36 departments, I should say, across 12 different states, coming to Murfreesboro. Part of the Gary Sinise Foundation provided funding to Performing Under Pressure, and they had that training here. And I'm telling you, they couldn't stop talking about Murfreesboro Fire Rescue, talking about the Doug Young Public Safety Training Center. They just really gave the props to the city of Murfreesboro. They
did, and and we're in talks with them now. As a matter of fact, a couple of weeks from now, I got a meeting with the Gary Sinise Foundation. They want to make it an annual thing. Okay. We're going to try to get something worked out. For the ones that don't know, the Gary Sinise Foundation started out helping veterans, and it's moved into first responders. Right. And the way they help us is to train, put on training, very good classes. And the issues they have is when they go different places to do it, is having a place to do it. We had the facility here. We talked to them earlier. We got it worked out where they could come in and do this, and it was a good class. A lot of people. It's good camaraderie, meeting people across the state, in different states, seeing different ideas from other departments, how they work and train together. And we're looking forward to working with them and maybe continue to host that here.
Right, and for those who may not know the name Gary Sinise, he was known as Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan.
In the Forrest Gump movie.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, so he's a great guy, and I just hate he didn't get to come. He was at some other events that particular week.
His foundation is really busy. He's got a lot of things going on. There's no way he can be at everything that's going on. Right. But in this next meeting in a couple of weeks, he is going to be part of it. So glad to meet him.
It was a 3-day event. The Gary Sinise Foundation pays for lodging, for food. I meant just everything. Their meals, they pay for it all.
And what's good too is all these people coming in, and they pay for their lodging. They're supporting the city too. They're not bringing their stuff in. They have to build props. They went to local stores here in town, bought the wood, built the props here. All the food they brought in come from local restaurants here. They have it catered in. It was a top-notch class that was put on by them.
And some of those props they decided to donate to.
They did.
To us.
They left some of the props because the way they look at it, it's cheaper to rebuild more the next time than trying to tear those apart. Right. So we got some benefits out of it, some props that we can use.
And Chief, new engine, Engine 5 has been put into service.
That is correct. This process started about 2.5 years ago. Engine 5 was ordered. It's finally come in. We put our equipment on it. Everything we needed to get done to the engine to make it serviceable for us, and got it in Station 5 on Florence Road. We put that into service this month.
Replacing a 17-year-old.
17-year-old. We usually get somewhere, we cannot go, usually 15 years, and we can keep them for 5 for standby. So no more than 20 years that we can use them. So it was just in time, but we would have had it here in 15 years, but it takes so long to get them now.
Right. And the old, you had mentioned standby, so the old Engine 5, we're not getting rid of that just yet.
No.
It's going to be a standby engine just in case.
We still use it for standby, and what we use standbys for if the new engine 5, of course, it's got to be serviced. It may take a whole day long to do it service. We'll pull out the reserves, use it. Also, we use those in incidents to where, if you remember the Good Friday tornadoes, we didn't have enough engines in service at the stations to cover all the calls we was getting that day. So when the crews come in, they get on standby engines. So we had an extra 5 or so engines in service. So it's more than just a standby. It's there if we get deployed, need to carry an engine, well, we can use them then. So it's a good thing to have a few in standby. And
we had the traditional push-in ceremony.
That is correct. The day that we put it in service, the tradition is to kind of push it in. Goes way back to those steam engines pushing the new one in the station, you know, the horse-drawn one. So it's still kind of a tradition when you get a new one to push it in the station.
Okay. And the Exchange Club of Rutherford County, each year they honor different public services, and this year they honored Shan Womack, Assistant Fire Marshal, as Firefighter of the Year.
Yes, they did. Shan's been with our department now about 20 years, I believe. Has been in the fire marshals. She's actually our assistant fire marshal for the last 4 or 5. And Shan is, and she just goes above and beyond. And she was recognized for what all she does. She's not only her day-to-day jobs for still out doing inspections on new construction, going to pre-con meetings, taking I don't know how many phone calls. Just her phone rings all the time. She also has went above and beyond. She's like our Citizens Fire Academy. She puts that class together. Our Teen Fire Academy, she does that. She serves on the Middle Tennessee Electric Board. She does that. Also, she was the vice president of the Tennessee Fire Inspectors Conference of Association of Tennessee, and just got elected to president now. So she serves on that as president of the Tennessee Fire Inspectors. So she does a lot at work and a lot away from work. So it was a good decision to give her that.
I don't know. She must have a clone, because in addition to work, she's on the road with her daughter playing softball. I don't know how she does it.
I don't know when she sleeps, or I don't know. She's just 24/7. She's on the go. It's you never know when you're going to get a call from her or Shannon. It may be 5 in the morning or 2 in the morning. She's always up going doing something. And one other thing I did leave out that's really important about Shannon, she's one of our main investigators in prosecuting people for arson. Has to go to court too on that. So she's does a lot for us.
Does a lot. She sure does. And we also recently had a graduation, new recruits, 11 new members of the Murfreesboro Fire Rescue Department.
We did. Class of 2402 graduated just a few days ago I think it was a Wednesday they graduated, or no, it was a Friday, I'm sorry. And some of them had to go to report to their station on Friday, and the other 2 shifts they went Saturday and Sunday, so they have got their basic training to be a firefighter now, and their basic medical training, and they're able to ride on our trucks now and respond to calls. Now the learning process really starts. Of course, over the next couple of years, they'll have to go back to their EMT classes, smoke diver classes, and stuff like that. But they were glad to be assigned to station after 14 weeks of everyday training. So.
And in addition to our 11, we also trained other departments. I think a total of 26 graduates.
I think that is correct. We had Lebanon and Hendersonville. And what we do there, there's so many recruits being trained right now that the state fire school is not able to train them all. So we, a few years ago, had started our own recruit class that we are certified to teach, and they get the recognition of state certified here in Murfreesboro, our training facility. Sometimes we don't have enough people to teach a class to make it economically worth it. So we've got other departments that are going through the same thing that don't have a training facility, bringing them in to kind of fill the class up, and in return, they're sending some of their instructors, teaching a couple of weeks of it, so that saves us on paying our instructors using theirs. And it's just a good thing to do with their neighboring departments, and it helps us just as much as it helps them.
And as you can see on the screen here, there's a list of these new firefighters.
Yes.
Definitely want to show their names and give them their props.
Yep, we're glad to have them all. Glad to have them.
Speaking of not quite a new recruit class, but we finally brought back our Citizen Fire Academy since COVID.
Yes.
One of the largest classes in the history. Yes. I was a part of it, Assistant PIO Dana Smith. There were some other city employees who
some of our
took
dispatchers. Yes, and that wrapped up about the second week of November. Had a good turnout this year, and I think everybody enjoyed it. It gives a little taste of what our job's about and what we do, and some of the fun parts of it. And so, I was really glad to get that back going, and as many people wanted to go. So.
Right. So. I mean, I had so much fun, climbed that 75-foot ladder and got to the top, and it's like, oh man, and did it with the turnout gear on, so that made it more difficult. Got to use the hoses, didn't realize how much pressure is coming through and how much, much you have to be in shape and to hold that hose and fight a fire. So it was unbelievable, and definitely have to give the respect to all those men and women of the fire department who were able to do this every day. Yeah.
Yes, it's kind of like those saying, it's a young man's game, and we got some good physical fit, tough young men and women in our department. So proud of them.
Right, right. And we've got some new family members here as well.
Yes, we kind of try to recognize this. We've had two of our firefighters, firefighters Seth Wright and Justin Wynn, both had babies in the month of November. Right. So we're glad to add them to our part of our family, because we're all family there. So we got two new babies.
Chief, is there anything else you want to talk about that I failed to ask you?
Yeah. Couple things. Don't forget, our special census is still going on, the 2025 special census. You can go to murfreesborocensus.com and fill those out. It only takes just a couple of minutes. And one other thing, Christmas is coming up, and I'd like to wish everybody to have a happy and safe Merry Christmas from the Murfreesboro Fire Department.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode of Fire Talk with Chief Mark McCluskey. Catch us next time for more engaging conversation right here on City TV. And don't forget, you can also watch Fire Talk on the City of Murfreesboro YouTube channel, as well as the City of Murfreesboro and the Fire Department's social media platforms. I'm Larry Flowers, and again, on behalf of Chief Mark McCluskey, we really appreciate you for joining us. And of course, we don't want to forget about our producer, Michael Nevels, and the entire Fire Talk team. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you next time.